presentation is how to generate loyalty for dialogue. Everyone wants to know how to generate loyalty because everyone wants to keep their consumers. With more and more brands on the market, the choice of product grows and consumers seem to switch between brands more often than remaining loyal these days. So it would clearly be naive to believe that just because you've reached and maybe even engaged the consumers that you're automatically going to keep them. So there are counter solutions and approaches about how to deal with and how to best find your consumers. But what we believe is that there are basically three keys to generating lasting consumer loyalties.
Well, thank you, Nigel. That was a very spirited. Publicis has made a tremendous investment in I mean, you could probably characterize it better, but in all manner of digital. Publicis of all the groups is probably, in my view, from the WP side, more holistically involved in digital than any of us are. And so again, from the outside looking in at Publicis, I always look at Publicis as having this idea that marketing consists of content that can be used in any kind of channel and form, and they're sort of organizing themselves around that. So I don't know if you want to add to that, but let me ask you the question that you got to get at. When you listen to this, what brands come to mind that might actually be doing this, or in fact, is your experience that the brand owners are not really open to this kind of dialogue?
I think the first brand that springs to mind is Amazon, because what they did, they didn't advertise themselves. They went out and they behaved differently. And I think the key about what you've been talking about with the dialogue is it's not about advertising, it's about behavior. And as soon as a brand starts to behave consistently in a way that listens to consumers and responds to those consumers, it earns the trust of them and it earns their advocacy. A brand that I think has done that dramatically is Ducati in the motorcycle area. Motorcycles, they go fast, they're quite cool some years, and some years they're not very good at all. Ducati reduced their marketing team down and started to invite users to participate as in terms of R&D, in terms of helping develop the brand and take it forward. And the result is that you've got now a tribe of Ducati users who extol the virtues of Ducati to anybody who's willing to listen. Another brand that's done that, I think, quite interestingly is Subaru. If you check out Subanet, they were one of the first ones that I was aware of as a car brand who were going out there saying, guys, tell us the problems, and people were writing in saying, I am so pissed off the petrol cap falls off. And they actually responded and said, we're terribly sorry about that, we'll fix it on the next go round. And what they were doing there was to show, first of all, they were listening, and secondly, that they cared about the consumers enough to create a forum for those consumers to respond.
My topic today is how do you generate loyalty through dialogue? How can you build a successful dialogue with your consumers? What do you think? What's important?
I think to build a dialogue amongst consumers, you have to have a very focused view of what you're targeting or the behaviour that you're targeting that consumer's involved in. So taking real note of the consumer, their behaviour, what they do, how they do it, what they like, and focusing on being really good at that. I'm not trying to do too many things at once because you'll just lose the consumer.
So how do you think can mobile help when it comes to building a dialogue and generating loyalty?
Well, I think mobile is great because you've basically got a device that, as I said, is very personal to that consumer. You can understand, and we as operators can understand where our customers are going, what sites they're going to, what kind of content they like, how many calls they make, how much data they consume. And in many cases we know much more about them, where they live, what sex they are, what gender, etc. So once you have that rich information, you can start to build up a picture. But you need to really engage with them and understand what their preferences are. Do they like rap music? Do they like particular type of sport? What is it they're interested in? And then start to offer targeted, segmented information to them. And if you get it wrong, there's a real risk on mobile that you'll piss them off for quite some time, if not forever. So I think the risks are there, and we need to avoid those risks.
Loyalty by providing applications that actually work and that have some sort of desirability amongst users, ideas that are new and engage with the consumers.
Yeah, I think that all the mobile applications should be user-centric, responding to a real need from the consumer, and be working as you started. And you don't want to have to call the customer service and say, hey, I have a problem, something like this. So it's something you can rely on, definitely.
Don't lie to them. And if you do something wrong, tell them. I know that it's an old adage that if you make a mistake, you actually get much better props in how you handle that mistake than trying to cover it up. And that's truth will always win out. And particularly now in the digital age, is that everything you do is advertising, and the digital age has allowed a lot of conversations to occur that otherwise would never have happened. And I think that it's how you manage yourself, good and bad, is what's going to pay you dividends as far as keeping loyalty is concerned.
Final question, going back to the event last Tuesday. We were talking about loyalty back then, and you asked me what I thought about loyalty, so I'm giving the question back to you. What do you think is an effective way to generate consumer loyalty?
I suppose, going back to the theme of this conversation, if you go back to the mass consumerism and mass communication, most of the marketing was aimed at people who were strangers. And I talk to you as somebody who has not yet bought the product and want to seduce you into buying the product. Once you bought the product, I would lose interest in you because I didn't know you were you, right? So most of marketing talks to its audience as though it's not engaged with the audience. That's the advertising model. I think the loyalty equation is about talking to somebody who's already bought the product as a user, and to use communications to do that. And that's hard to justify from a business point of view, because it's easy to say, I want to spend all this money to recruit potential new users. It's harder to say, I want to spend this money to talk to people who are already users, because where's the new revenue going to be? The answer is the new revenue is going to come from their word of mouth. So I think part of loyalty is you don't need big loyalty programs to generate loyalty. You need to just talk to people who've already bought your product in all channels, in the store, right? In ads, and yes, individually online, right? So when you go into a Nokia or into a operator store to choose a phone, does any of that communication that you see in that store speak to you as somebody who already has a Nokia? Mostly, I think it speaks to you as though you're they're trying to deloyalty is really what it is, disloyalty. They're saying, hey, look at me over here, I'm Sony Ericsson, I'm more exciting. Look at me over here, Nokia, I've got something new. Nothing says in there, if you know Nokia and feel comfortable with this phone, you're going to love this phone. Nothing in there does that. We're so used to talking to strangers, and we spend our money with strangers. We don't spend our money with friends. And so I think the loyalty equation starts with a mental mindset about the economics of those users and what the benefits are, and then aligns channels to them. And yes, there's going to be some individual communication, but I think it's more than that. I think it's really focusing on loyalty versus acquisition. And marketing loves to focus on acquisition. Marketing is about growth. Marketing is about the new. So marketing people are like that. They don't like to talk about what we do with our existing customers. They want to talk about conquesting new customers, right? That's marketing. So let's go after these guys. But that doesn't really make sense all the time. You've got to invest in your existing customers. So part of this is the culture of marketing itself, and that's an inhibitor for loyalty.
I think that is a very nice closing statement. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much for the interview.